tips and techniques that help them change the negative thought patterns that hold them back from being truly successful. So Joe is a motivational speaker and author of the book, The Undiscovered You, Healing Your Negative Thoughts Using the Law of Replacement. And he's also the founder and CEO of Mastermind University. Joseph Mercado.
Thank you, everybody. How's everybody feeling this evening?
Great.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Entrepreneur Center, as we have tonight. I just want to start out, if everybody could just do me one favor. I know some people are eating. But if we could all just rise to our feet for one moment. Everybody around the room, please. I just want you to, everybody, give yourself a round of applause for being here. Just give yourself, stir up a little bit of motivation. You could all sit, thank you. Thank you very much. I just want to take a quick moment and thank Tammy and Lynn for setting up this event for everybody. We have a wonderful group of expos, and I just want to, just again, thank you, Tammy, for everything, and Lynn, round of applause for that. So excited to be here this evening. I'd like to share a little bit of the story, give you a little insight about myself. Growing up as a young boy, I was 11 years old, I picked up my first Anthony Robbins book called Unlimited Power. And I started thumbing through the pages, and you just read a book and you just land on something and it catches your eye immediately, and you start thinking, wow, what is this? So there was something about all these smiley faces, sad faces. It was just talking about how we read people through emotions. So I got so intrigued, I asked my uncle, can I take this book home and can I read it? So he said, no problem. So what I did was I started to read it and started trying to memorize some of the pages because I wanted to be the smartest fifth grader in my class. So as I'm going through this and delving through the information, I realized, wow, a lot of people must go through some negativity in life. Now, by a show of hands, is there anybody who has ever experienced a negative thought or a negative emotion? I don't say the obvious, right? See, I got you to laugh, though. That's what counts. So after reading this book and then actually falling asleep at 8 years old with a dictionary in my hand, reading the Bible, not understanding certain keywords, I would look up the vocabulary and try to enhance my level of speaking communication. So as I got older and got picked up by Hewlett-Packard Computers as a keynote speaker, I saw that there was a path of being created. I saw that there was a destination of purpose because we're all on this quest. And how we deal with these circumstances in life, because we're faced with a lot of trials and tribulations. You turn on the news, there's nothing but negativity. You go on Facebook, social media, people complaining, they're negative. What does that do? That saturates what? Saturates the mind, the spirit, and the body. We pick up that. We all have a magnetic field that surrounds our circumference as a being. And we magnetize things into our life based on how we think, how we feel, and how we speak. As a result of that, that allows us to what? Encounter the behaviors, the habits, and the things that we become accustomed to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a little short story about the donkey and the farmer. Has anybody ever heard of that? All right, one person, all right. So I'll give you a little short, concise version of it. So you have, and use your imagination as I'm telling the story, because I'm going to trim it up a little. So you have a donkey and a farmer. It's a hot, scorching summer day, walking down a path. So the donkey is getting thirsty, so is the farmer. So he spots a well on the side of the road, and he says, let's go get some water. So he looks and he peeks over to see if there's any water in the well. There's nothing in there. As the donkey peeks over, he falls in the well. So the farmer says, oh no, what am I going to do? I think my donkey's dead. So he goes and he says, I can't help him. I'm not going to go all the way down there and risk my life. So he says, the only thing that I could do, as he looks over to his left, spots a shovel, picks up the shovel, and he starts picking up dirt off the ground and throwing it in the well onto the donkey. So he figured if I bury him alive, there'll be a lot less for him to go through. So as he's doing this, he's not realizing what's going on. All he's doing is paying attention to digging up the dirt. The donkey is smart. He's using the dirt that's catching on his back, and he's shaking it off, getting it off his back, and it's falling underneath his feet. So the more the farmer starts to use the dirt and pile it on his back, he's actually using it as an elevator to rise up. Now, some of you may have experienced some dirt in your life, some dirt on your back. It could be a thought, it could be emotion, it could be an experience from you or somebody else. But the moral of the story is this, is that sometimes that dirt or that negativity is to be used as leverage. Leverage for what? Leverage to catapult us into another area of success within our life. So as the donkey rose all the way to the top of the well, the farmer sat there and said, just looked at him in complete shock and didn't know what to say. So as the donkey said, thank you very much for saving my life. And he looked at him, and the donkey just took off and didn't say a word and went on his merry way. Sometimes we don't need to respond to negative people or negative circumstances. Sometimes our situations, our solutions are right under our feet. And what I like to do is, I like to just demonstrate that positivity or that drive, that destination of purpose that was settling inside the membranes of that donkey, and how he used his mindset to get out from a negative into a positive by surviving. So as we have here, we're in the Entrepreneur Center, right? I'm going to give you a reason why I wrote that out. Everybody read that? Mm-hmm. What does it say?
Entrepreneurial.
Does anybody see anything odd about that word? Raise your hand if you have the answer.
I think it's not spelled right. I think there's an extra E in there.
No, I think it's fine. Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
So basically, what we have here, I'm going to break this down. This is part of what I teach in some of my courses. Is
Neural.
Noria?
Yeah.
Neural. Yeah.
neural.
Brain.
Brain.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you got it. You're exactly right.
Synapses.
So what we have here is we have entree,
Entree.
right?
Enter.
There's supposed to be two
So we
R's.
have entree, which is right before the main meal.
Oh, yeah.
We have pre before, and we take out the I, we have neural, which represents the mind. Did you know that the brain consists of a small little factory called the hypothalamus?
Yeah.
The hypothalamus contains what we are known as a neural network.
Right.
Your neural network is made up of approximately 100 billion neurons, which are like nerve cells. And these nerve cells communicate through neurotransmitters. And inside of that, those neurotransmitters themselves and with other people, there's also, through that neural net is what we have inside that hypothalamus. You look, and I'm going to draw a little picture of just the bases of a tree. I'm not a Michelangelo by trade. But say this is a tree, and you have a branch coming out of the tree, right? You have branches coming out all over the place, okay? It starts with the planting of a seed. When you plant a seed, you develop a harvest throughout time. And the reason why we as people think negative is because we plant negative seeds subconsciously. We don't realize it. Since childhood, we're influenced by certain forms of behavior through information that we're fed with since birth. We're all born on a clear white sheet, not a splatter of paint on it. And throughout time, we start adding colors to that sheet. Those colors represent our behavior, our character, our habits, our thoughts, and overall, the person who we are and who we become. As a result, when we plant those seeds, what we're doing is, when we entertain certain thoughts of negativity, we begin to stimulate those nerve cells. Those neurons begin to lengthen. Let's just say this is anger, right? Emotion of anger. It's a negative emotion, one of the most dangerous. And as you start thinking about certain things, that little tentacle, which is called the dendriticle, starts to lengthen. And as it lengthens, you develop a longer lasting relationship, which makes the habit harder to break. So how do you diffuse that? How do you detach that? How do you shrink that long relationship with that very thought? And the way you do that is there's two ways to do it. One is through isolation. If you start isolating those negative thoughts by not paying any mind, by ignoring them, and you say, well, that's easier said than done. Well, I'm going to prove something to you on how it works in just a second. When you start doing that, what happens is, you actually, when you isolate, it gives it no room to breathe. You're not feeding it oxygen. If you take two plants and you put one in a bright room and one in a dark room, what's going to happen to the plant in the dark room? And your negative emotions, it's the same way as that plant that's in a dark room. If you don't entertain it and feed it oxygen and give it life, it can't continue to manifest. and start multiplying like a cell. Does it make sense so far? Yes? No? Yes. All right. Make sure you guys still awake here. All right. So what we do is we want to be able to not only put that negative thought in a state of isolation, what we also want to do is use the law of replacement. Now, does anybody here have children? Raise your hand. All right, so you have children. Your children must be, they have the most wonderful, loving thing in the world. You love them more than anything. You'll do anything for them. So what you do is you want to take your children and you want to replace that with the negative thought. So if the positive is more dominant than the negative, that's going to put it in a state of isolation because now you're not paying any mind to that negative. So now you're focused on something that's more important, that has more value. That's now you're stimulating a thought process as opposed to feeding it poison. So when we do that, that enables us to get out of that emotional rut. Now, we have another thing here that creates these emotions. We have motivation. Inside the word motivation, together, if you look at here, motion. Motion creates emotion. The emotion, the E on right here, I want to add an E in there to make it emotion. This is the energy that motivates you to be either positive or negative. So you have two forms of energy within you. You have internal and external, intrinsic and extrinsic. And those forms of motivation, those levels of energy are going to be based on your level of motivation. What motivating factors are actually gearing you to be more positive? Now, there's certain things that you feel like you don't have control of inside that negative state of well-being. So what is that? We need to redirect that opposing focus to make us get back on track and develop that positive mindset. Because really the shift, the paradigm shift from the negative emotion to the positive mindset is the second that you make the decision to replace that negative with a positive. Through that is the transitioning period. Inside that transitioning moment is where the shift happens. So that's where you create that paradigm shift. From that point, it's up to you to continue that. How do you maintain that? This is the thing I want to challenge everybody before everybody leaves today. I have a 7-day challenge for each and every one of you. And it's not an easy challenge. It's a very difficult challenge. I learned this from Anthony Robbins. The challenge is to go 7 days without thinking a single negative thought. Now some people say, wow, that's really tough. It is tough. It's very tough for me. And even if you get to you gotta start over. And that's the challenge. But these are the little exercises, the positive thinking strategies that allow us to get to that place of revision, that destination of purpose. And what is it? It's redundancy. Redundancy is the mother to all learning. And that is what's going to allow you to get out of that rut, to minimize your level of stress. We all have situations. We all have things that we go through. We all have problems. You have to